Did you think that about That'd be for that. You bring that up at the end. Okay.
Just
Today. My neighbor.
Yeah, and it's subject to.
He has one powered down. Gas powered. Huge. Okay. And after trees, I haven't changed it.
Further conversation.
Just had a couple of those too.
Trees, only like this big,
Projects at the time that
come down if it's in the way. But, yeah. Yeah, because the fight.
Worse. That project was done at the site already, as well as a battery.
You guys got another work party coming up?
Well, we're just talking about making that.
Last time was pretty straightforward, and short.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Hey, look at that stranger.
Look at
Woo! He just couldn't stay away.
That's a good idea.
Paul, it's working there, Howard.
I'll just drop that application.
You have to have your secretary, but
I was wondering how I want to do if I should see if Caroline would want to. As a condition.
good.
For now.
It's good to do that.
Yeah.
Though, you know, at all that time that was good stuff. Yeah.
She's gonna
First.
All right. Do you guys want to go ahead and get started? It's 4 p.m. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. First, review the minutes. of February 13th. I do have one thing to comment on the number 4 when we were discussing the presentations. I did suggest to present both Campbell Park and Gray Cliffs Park together in July.
Gray Cliffs and Campbell in July.
Yes. Did anyone have any other proposed changes to the minutes? Someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes with the one amendment?
Make a motion to approve the minutes with the one amendment.
Second,
Is that Howard?
Thank you.
and we'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to visitor comments.
Forward?
Yes, please.
Right here?
Yeah.
This is a better view than I usually.
I gotta leave.
Am I under the clock? No?
Minutes,
How many minutes?
3 minutes.
Are you the timekeeper?
It can be.
All righty. It's good to see all of you. And
You too.
do I miss you, but I don't miss this so much. I wanted to come to this meeting because I do have one thing that I think is very important to share with you. And, that's with the Clumpy View Park, which is yours, and your responsibility. This is on you. It's your deal. It is not Buck's or Jen's or our city managers. It's not on them, it's on you. So all I'm saying is start to do your homework, because that is shovel ready down there as we're talking. Stakes are in the ground where things are going to be. And have you had the opportunity to set goals, set priorities, make decisions, and go forward with it? I'm asking you as a team, as a committee, to get involved in that. I think our staff needs help. They need community support, which if something goes wrong down there, in other words, if the stage that is designed already and set in place in its preliminary setting, if that's too far away and people through the first concert, I can see this, and it's happened before when we had public hearings about the gazebo, about what we were going to do with the gazebo. Everyone in this city liked that gazebo and liked the amphitheater because of the intimacy of how close it was to the audience. And they could see the performance played out from eye to eye. You could see the sweat kind of dripping down from Curtis Salgato's forehead as he was bellowing out his blues tunes. You could feel that, and people were at the utmost were involved in that. So I'm kind of like, okay, how did the stage get so far away to where if I come to 13 Nights, I'm going to bring my binoculars to see kind of what I'd be missing out on. I'm going to come to 13 Nights, maybe the first time, and see a lot of activity in the space between the stage and the amphitheater of kids running crazy because we don't have enough police to get them out of the way, or we don't have all those kinds of things in place. And if we need chairs to set up, where are the chairs going to be? Who's going to set them up? Who's going to take them down? Who's going to police the grounds after the concert is over? Is the goal to have 3,000 to 4,000 people there? Oh my, how's that going to work? How's that going to work in Public Works when we have 3,000 or 4,000 people coming midweek to some show or on a weekend? That's probably what part of the design and concept is. But I don't know what the goals are. I really don't know if the goals are going to happen after the building, after those kinds of things happen, or is it up to you folks to say, hey, wait a minute, I think we need to weigh in on this. I think there could be some studies about what is happening with the sound. What is the sound going to be like if the stage is that far away and the seating is back in the amphitheater? How's it all going to work? So that's one of my concerns. And the reason I'm here is because we put a lot of time, a lot of forethought, a lot of, I could say blood, sweat, and tears, but I wasn't involved in building that amphitheater, but I know a lot of people who were. And I just hope that it all functions. So with your help, make certain the staff comes through, support the staff, and make certain it functions, make certain that you know before things are done. I personally think that stage should be moved back, or the gazebo should be moved back, but not clear to the river, not that far. Most people that I've talked to, musicians and sound people, 15 to 20 feet at the most. And right now it's more like 70 or 80 feet. So I just see some of those problems. Hopefully you can iron them out as a team and all get involved. It isn't my opinion, it's just my opinion. And as a past team member, that's how I would weigh in. So now I'm weighing in as a private citizen and take it for whatever for what it is. But
Doug, what do you think about the angle of the new stage?
I think that's up to you. I don't know, but I do think that there are certain things that I see that need to be improved, especially for the concerts that we have now. Anticipated conference of thousands of people, but concerts that we have now is that it gets really kind of crowded down below and on that kind of the dance floor or whatever. So I envision that, Jerry, for that area to be a plaza and be a bit larger, quite a bit larger than it is now, and take up part of the space of where the stage is now, and let the new stage to that. But keep it intimate as you possibly can. That's my opinion. Thank you for asking.
I have a question real quick. Do you know, as a sound and maybe architectural consultant run into this?
Pardon me?
A sound and architectural consultant?
I asked a couple performers and they, one was said that they tested the sound system and they found some hollow places in the audience in the amphitheater. I don't know why that happened. I have no idea, but they found some hollow places, and that was one of the problematic kinds of things. The other problem with the amphitheater was the design of the gazebo. Was the design of the gazebo itself. It just didn't have good sound. Things would reverberate. The ceiling was too small. I don't know if they had to be raised or not, but I think that there was some softening to that as well. So there's a lot of things that some studies that kind of got to be done, that when the public comes in here and starts ranting and saying, why did that happen, whatever, that you've already had a committee meeting about it in one way or whatever. It doesn't matter. Another thing that came up is do you want grass down there, or do you want a plaza, or how do you want it? As far as I see it, I'd hate to see another mud hole down there. I think that would be something that, and the last thing I want to say is that Howie knows this, and I remember reading yours about what the riverfront development should be about. And yours specifically said, I think we should have some more land for more parks or for the park place. I think a lot of it should be residential and commercial, and the environmental needs should be considered, which I think already has been talked about and is in place. But I remember what you said, we need places for parks and there should be some park space down there. It was accommodated. The council said, yeah, let's expand the Columbia View Park. Let's take it down there. It makes sense as to we're doing it now. And we listened to staff's recommendation as well to expand Columbia View Park. So with that, there's been a lot of public input and little things like I remember about what Howie said runs true at the council level. I remember holding that up and reading it, Howie. And so there's things that need to be done like now, because this is big. Once this gets done, it isn't going to change. It's going to be there for a long time. So make certain that we do it right, okay? And when you do that, I think the more people involved, the more committee people we have, the more things that you think about of what can go wrong. Make certain you get that all taken care of.
It's all about enhancing the livability of parks.
With that,
It's all about enhancing the livability in parks.
sure is, yeah. I went over my 3 minutes, so disregard everything I said after after I said committee.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we have any other visitor comments?
Excuse me,
Yes.
you said what?
I asked if we had any other visitor comments. Sorry.
Robert was talking to us.
Okay, with no other comments, we can move on to new business. So, number 2 is draft grant subcommittee guidelines.
Thank you. So I think in your packet, you all should receive what I'm calling the draft grant subcommittee guidelines. And this, let me back up and say this was the response out of a phone call from Lynn Pettit, who asked about creating a Parks Commission subcommittee that would work on grants. And my understanding was that you wanted to be able to write grants on behalf of the Parks Commission and then sort of share that funding with the city for projects that you would initiate. Kind of my
I put that out there just because I didn't know
Yeah,
what the process would be, so.
so I thought it was a great idea. I mean, we'd always want to use volunteer support, and bringing in money is an excellent way you guys can support staff. But there's obviously a lot that goes into that. Obviously, as a body, you're advisory to city council, so we want to make sure the process is set forth. So I took the initiative and met with Buck, John Walsh, and then Councilor Sundin a couple weeks ago, and sort of just threw all of my ideas about what would be an acceptable process for you all to be able to work on your own grants. And so that's what this draft is. Hopefully you've had a chance to look through it. I think this time is to look at this hopefully you understand what I'm going for here. I can kind of run through just briefly, but I think ultimately, if you want to form a grant subcommittee, it should come from the direction of council. And so I think at the end of this, you all would want to make a motion, and then Councilor Sundin can bring it to city council if you want to kind of form an ad hoc group. I think it would also be important that you're not meeting as a quorum. You don't have to meet with under a quorum's amount of time if you're meeting to write grants together. So looking over this questionnaire or subcommittee grants subcommittee guidelines. So the first section is all, you can kind of think of it as red light, yellow light, green light. I think you know, I don't think this group is looking for federal grants. That's kind of why it's in red. And the reasons there are kind of laid out. There a lot of staff capacity to manage federal grants, let alone write them. And oftentimes city staff will utilize consultants to assist with writing federal grants. So you know, hopefully that makes sense, but it's highly unlikely we would support a federal grant application. Yellow light, so these are agencies like the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, State Historic Preservation Office, the Marine Board, Department of Land Conservation and Development. Those all have grant programs that might be suited towards parks. It's unlikely that staff would support a Parks Commission application or assistance with that. Because more often than not, the city already has plans for these programs in place, and we wouldn't want to duplicate efforts or have, you know, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's just less likely. And then the last category is private groups and foundations. These are things like the Oregon Community Foundation, you know, MODA was a good example. Ford Family Foundation has been incredibly generous to the city in the past. I think these are great fodder for the grant subcommittee to work on, or even private, you know, maybe someone has, you know, a fund that, you know, they passed away and they just have a fund that they're committing to parks. If you find something else outside of this. And so, yeah, usually these are easier to manage. There's less strings attached. The application processes are easier. So I think that's kind of the green light category.
And I mean,
Yeah, sure,
maybe there should even be a D group,
sure.
you know, one where you know, people just donate money. You know, for, you know, like, let's say someone wants something done and they says, you know, I'll donate $100 for this, you know. I think that happens quite, you know, like the kiosk and, you know,
Those donors.
things like that. You know, so we probably need some guidance on, you know, how that should be handled.
Sure.
I don't know what you'd call it, but you know,
Yeah, it's
real
probably
small.
not fit for the grant subcommittee, but I do think fundraising is part of, you know, you guys can certainly fundraise and solicit donors. I think that
So
would.
you would call that fundraising then?
I think so. I mean, I think
Okay.
that's
I'm good with that.
different than a grant application. Usually grant applications, you know, you're preparing a budget, you're, you know, preparing some type of deliverable for an agency. So I think donations, you would work with Buck and, you know,
Okay.
process it through this
The
group,
person
just like the
donating,
benches and any other.
You tell them what it's going for and hopefully
Yep.
we do that.
Yeah, I don't think you need such a formal process for donated. There is a process for donated benches and things already too, that Kathy works with council on. That's a good question though. So the second section of this is just a lot of questions. And I think these are all, it was an attempt to kind of categorize all the things I would look for before I write a grant. One, are we eligible? Is there budget for it? Is the project already in an adopted plan? It doesn't necessarily need to be in the Parks and Trails Master Plan. It could be an adopted resolution by council, ordinance, in the strategic plan. It could even be a storm master plan project. You know, maybe it's a retention area, maybe it's a wetland enhancement and it's related to parks. So there's a lot of different planning documents that could support your endeavors with grant applications. And so I tried to kind of list some of those out. And then, you know, E is an important category. Does the staff have capacity to manage the grant? You all are not grant managers. So you're writing the grant, you're making the city aware of the grant and then passing it on to staff. So making sure that if Public Works is involved, we have capacity to do the work. Making sure that if there's a budget, you know, our finance department is aware and it's in the budget if there's matching funds. So those are all things to kind of think about before you bring it to staff's attention about a grant you want to write. And then F, you know, if there's other partner agencies involved, you know, maybe you're working with the aquatic district, maybe you're working with the Friends of group, making sure you're not stepping on toes with Dalton Lake, for example. You want to make sure the Friends of Dalton Lake Nature Preserve's involved. Maybe the county is involved or Scott Coos Bay Watershed Council. So kind of doing that legwork will help me if there's a partner agency that you've already sort of made that connection for us. And then, you know, thinking about who's actually responsible for all the components of the grant application. So, you know, are you writing the narrative? Are you getting the letters of support for us? Are you preparing the budget? Is there a site plan required and have you prepared that plan? And then what's the timeline? So that was kind of my stab at highlighting the aspects of grant writing and then, you know, how you could assist with those components. Any other thoughts?
Quick question. It may be slightly different, but I just wanted to say that like we got a small grant, like $500 or $600 from the Portland Garden Fund. And the city can set up an account and kind of, when you get your receipts, that you can turn them in and get paid back that way. So that's like a small donation or I guess it was you
It
consider,
was a grant application.
grant.
Yeah,
so the city is equipped to handle this stuff for us if we get small grants for one of our parks.
And Howard, you know, that was previous finance director. We want to obviously make sure a new finance director could set up a fund just the same way. I'm
Okay.
assuming so, but
Okay,
just pointing out, and it was also a small award.
yeah,
But yeah, the Friends of Nob Hill wrote a Portland Garden Club.
yeah, we've done that twice.
$500.
Yeah.
And then you set aside that money and then you submitted your receipts and we paid you out, right?
Yes,
So
once
you
we bought
had
some.
to expend funds personally
Yeah.
and then got reimbursed through the
Correct,
city.
correct.
So we were kind of like a fiscal sponsor for that grant. But that maybe not the best example for this case. I think in this case.
No, you're just.
Yeah, the city would be the applicant and, but yeah, it's a good point, Howard. It has been done before. It's possible.
Yeah. We don't write that end of it off.
Yeah, and that worked. I mean, I think we would do that again. So, I mean, I don't know, Lynn, we didn't really talk about this, but are there other members of the Parks and Trails Commission that want to be involved in your subcommittee for grants? Or have you talked about it with this group?
Well, we just brought it up and nobody came forward to volunteer because we were going to talk about later, which was with you.
Okay,
So
well, I think getting blessing from council might be good first, and then we can get the head nod and form the subcommittee.
Right.
You were saying something about the state funds, that sometimes there's state funds that are allocated to the city. Part of that could be used for the parks. And I was wondering if there's, if we could be notified when that's the case.
Are you referring to the grants through state agencies?
Yeah,
So what I was getting at on that is that if you have a state agency that you think might be suitable for a parks grant, check with us because we might already have internal plans for applying for that for something else.
yeah, but wouldn't that still be covering some of the parks then too, these internal grants?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of my job description is to write and assist with management of parks related projects. And usually I come to this body to get support for those grant applications too. You've seen many letters of support over the years for grant applications. Am I missing something? You look confused, Scott.
No, I would too. No, I was just wondering how the process, I guess.
Oh, okay, like how we decide.
Yeah, and that we are informed, when there is
Sure.
money, and it seems like that is the case, because,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Riverwalk project would be moving forward if we hadn't have like made initiative and applied for and received 2 different state grants. I think I'm directed by city council on what priorities and what to prioritize in the park system. And they are advised by this group. So, yeah, just showing up and being here and doing that, you'll be informed and advised and have the opportunity to provide feedback. Yeah.
I have a couple questions or comments. So like when the boardwalk was done on Fifth Street there and Nike donated that money, how did that process work? You were notified of a grant?
And then that project is in the Trails Master Plan, the Parks and Trails Master Plan. I think it was a $10,000 or $15,000 ask back then. And I believe I came to this group and requested a letter of support for the Nike Oregon Community Foundation grant. And then we got it and we managed the project. I involved Public Works. Roger built most of it. And we used the money for the materials. But it starts with it being in the master plan.
My other comment was a couple years ago, I was looking into grants, and no one that's on the staff here now told me that it was not my job to look for grants, not to, that's our job to do that. So like, let's say we wanted to talk to Nike, informally as a citizen of St. Helens, or can we do that? So,
Like through a grant program or just?
let's say like the Reeser Foundation, they're always doing a bunch of stuff, and Nike's doing a bunch of stuff. And and you contacted them and said, hey, this is, I'm on the Parks Commission, the Parks and Trails Commission, we're working on whatever. And would you be interested in taking a look at this and possibly, supporting the project? So would we have permission to do that as a
It's tricky.
yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. We are private citizens,
Right.
but we're, as a private citizen, I definitely have that option to do that. Because, I'm not involved with the city, but all of us being on the Parks and Trails Commission,
I can only say my preference, and I think the preference would be that you reach out to us first, just to make sure we don't already have an established relationship with that foundation. Maybe they funded a project that you weren't aware of last year, or we have an open grant. For, that would be
It's
the
either
worst
the-
case, right? Like they
Yeah,
just funded.
I understand all
something and
that.
then,
But, sometimes you go to someone and you say, hey, this is, oh yeah, we haven't thought of that. We think that's a great idea.
Mhm.
And if we didn't approach them and talk to them, the door is shut because we've already dealt with them on other things. But yeah, we'd be glad to donate $1,000 or whatever to this project.
Yeah.
So, I think that, we should be allowed to contact them. I mean, it has to be done, in a professional way, but,
Yeah, I would hate to just burn a bridge with the foundation or something, say we get a rogue commit. I'm not saying that this would happen, but I do think there is a level of professionalism with the larger foundations and the larger, even Nike, they have hundreds of people working on, grant awards. It's not just like a person who's deciding what to do with the money. They have a process and it's very mapped out.
Sure.
It's not just, it's not always just a relationship with one person where you.
but if you don't ever present something to an organization, they don't know it even exists. So the door is never opened. I'm not talking about being obnoxious or anything else, just say, hey, this is.
May I offer a possible example that may or may not be in alignment with what you're trying to ask? So currently, or prior, when I was doing my research for the Campbell Park building mural projects that I would like to continue on, in discussing with some of the local groups here, specifically like WorkSource, they actually have funding that is their own, the grants that they have that they distribute on their own. And while no official plans have been made, I'd like to continue to discuss with here and then go to council first, but they have money that they would like to be able to spend on some projects, and that project may be something that could qualify for some of their funds.
Mm-hmm.
So in cases like that, when it's a different entity that is already acquired a grant and are looking to spend their money, so we're not necessarily writing, we're not necessarily acquiring the money ourselves as other people, more or less providing a donation, would going there privately as a private citizen be inappropriate?
No, I feel like that fits squarely within the fundraising category that we talked about. I think that is soliciting funds for a project that they're already aware of. It sounds like you already had a relationship or something.
We were working on a different
Yeah.
project and
Yeah.
it just kind of came up in conversation.
Sure.
And so, yeah.
it does sound like a different case slightly. Honestly, that kind of sounds like what you're talking about, Jerry.
And
is
I'm
just
not,
asking
and the other
for
thing
money.
is, I'm not, and I'm not talking about large sums of money, I'm just
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah,
1,000,
Mhm.
sure.
1,500,
Yep.
I
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a higher bar. What we're talking about here is, maybe a $15,000 grant or award where they expect something to get completed out of it and there's a reporting process afterwards. That has structure around it.
I think it's important, that I've had an experience, asking for a donation, a large donation. And I just want to let you know that when I went there, I discussed this with the city first, because I'm not an employee of the city, I'm a volunteer that has this interest. And would you be interested? And if so, here's their cards. So that's what you need to do.
Yeah, I think you handled that very well and that was the appropriate way to handle it. Yeah, that felt correct.
I think what Jerry's trying to say is that he's going out trying to shake the tree and see if anything can come out. And, sometimes, don't know if you have already a relationship with them, but, if you contact them and say, we're looking, for money, we might have another relationship with you, and stating that, we're just looking to do this particular aspect or whatever. I don't see how that could be a problem if you're upfront with everything on.
That's my case, you're upfront, you're not asking for a lot of money.
There also, in my perspective of this, there seems to be a bit of a difference between looking for grants that we're looking to write and the proposal for and request money for, and therefore have the city manage the grant versus, say, a different entity having the funds, having the grants, and then more or less doing a donation.
I see that different.
Yeah.
We had
So-
that several times for Dalton.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to pay for the sign, somebody wanted to pay for the wildflowers, we were gonna put it.
So Lynn, are you looking to put together a grant subcommittee?
Yes.
Would you like to make a motion to request to ask the city council for permission to create a grant subcommittee?
And would we need the names of volunteers that want to be on that subcommittee first?
I'm assuming it'll be a rotating, because you're not always gonna have a stable membership. So as long as you're under a quorum, I don't think the council would need direct names.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to put together a subcommittee, grant subcommittee, for the purpose of enabling our parks to have some of the needs that have come up and will come up in the coming years.
Second,
All in favor of requesting from city council to approve the creation of a grant subcommittee? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. So Brandon, would you like to request on our behalf of the city council?
Bring it up, and I think it'll, so forward that on.
Thank you. All right. So, with no further discussion on the grants, and thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you. All right, so Commissioner Jacobson with the Columbia View Park Stage.
yes, and well, I've been away, I got some texts from Tina Curry about our concerns about, and I got a text from Doug Morton about our concerns about the orientation and the siting of the stage. And from what Tina has told me, that it is being reconsidered, or they're looking at it again. Is that correct, Jen?
Yeah, I can speak to this a little bit since I'm here. So on the March 1st council meeting, John, during his report, discussed the need to revisit the stage location and orientation, just because there's been repeated concerns that it's not placed in the right location for intimacy, to use Doug's word. And so we initiated a small contract with Mayor Reed, who did these designs, to come out, restage it or remark the locations of all four corners of the stage and the structure next to it, and then the dance floor. And they did that on the 3rd, March 3rd, so a couple weeks ago. And they're currently working on, so they took a ton of photos from the amphitheater and all angles of the seating of the stage locations. And they're currently working on a rendering of what the stage will look like from a seated position sitting in the amphitheater. And we're hoping to have that by the 17th, a draft, so this month. And then we'll also be sharing those photos. So, you know, I think we all want to make sure we get this right. You know, we have one chance.
Mhm.
And I, you know, without trying to sound defensive, you know, I think the process started out with 3 different stage orientations. And we were responsive to overcrowding that currently occurs. We were responsive to wanting to see the river, you know, not obstruct views of the river from the seating. We were responsive to the desire for a dance floor, you know, it gets muddy, so we, you know, the design incorporated that. And then I think we're also responsive to the need to make the stage larger. The current gazebo isn't large enough. You know, and I think just regarding the sound, we did involve Tina and Chris, who does our sound setup for 13 nights, and kind of made a location for the speakers that we currently have on the stage. We thought about where they would be located under the cover, so if it's raining, they're completely under cover. And we, you know, we thought about how that sound would be amplified. You know, it's not an indoor theater setup and it was never intended to be. So anyways, that's just kind of some background, I think, the design.
I've always had an idea that we should have had light rails, that way you could move forwards or backwards for more intimacy, or if it was something big, that if you had a stage that was on a light rail system, it could be moved lightly.
But if you had rails, it would impact, if it was pushed back, then it would be impacting. Could be dance floor or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you could have it whatever.
Well, I mean, it'd impact, you'd have it be stumbling over there.
There's ways to get a rail that's pretty flush to the ground.
Ortho, that's gonna
Yeah.
affect the sound.
The question I have, my wife and I went down there and we sit in the spots, you know, where it's things out, but I don't want to get involved in this. That's not my thing. Someone else's thing. But the question I have, and you kind of addressed it. So who is going, what group, it's not going to be one person, obviously. So who's gonna, and it should be professionals, people that, you know, I know landscape architects, sound architects, you know, I don't, you know, and also how people feel about intimacy and views and all that stuff. So what group of people is going to make this decision and with what kind of input?
So throughout the design process, which has been 18 months at this point, almost 2 years, we've had a technical advisory committee, and then we've also had a number of open houses where the stage alternatives were presented. We took that feedback from the technical advisory committee and those open houses and landed on the design that we have today. So it's been a collaborative effort from the beginning.
So who's on what people make up the technical?
So it's members of Public Works. We had a rotating member of City Council at the first few technical advisory committees so that each counselor could be involved. That was back when, you know, we didn't have our current council today, since it's been such a long process. And then we had a representative from our planning commission, Dan Carey. So we had Mohammed, Sharon, me, John, Dan Carey, and then a rotating counselor.
So Jen, when, you know, I mean, I don't want anyone to take this wrong, but when you, my impression is when you say a technical committee, you're talking about experts that, you know, that understand, you know,
Oh, I
side
mean,
angles
our-
and sound and.
Nuances of it.
no, our consultants were there too. So there were
Okay.
probably 8 members of our consultant team. And those include civil engineers, those include landscape architects, actual architects. There was, electrical engineers from PAE who does the lighting, all the wiring. There was a whole crew of folks on this project.
Okay, so obviously there's people decided where the stage was gonna go. Sounds like it was a fairly large input, but then when it got down to the nitty gritty, people started saying, hey, this is not really what I want. So you're readdressing it then.
Yeah, I think we all want to make sure this is in the right spot and we're responding to that. And I'm happy to share that deliverable at a meeting with the Parks and Trails Commission. Ultimately, it is a collaboration. We want to make sure we get it right. So.
I mean, well, I've looked at architects looking, throughout on Google, US looking for experts who actually have their field as design of stage. I haven't found anything that would remotely be, an expert in that, in the architecture. And another thing is that you're doing these photographs on the present stage as it is, or, going to be as it is proposed right now. That you're doing this.
Yeah, so we took our 90% design
Yeah.
and staked out the location and then took photos on site of where it will be located. And then they're going to, using 3D modeling, take that exact location and render what the stage will look like.
Is it possible to, do other locations and do another rendering of the model?
That's not in their scope today, yeah.
Next meeting, could you bring this back and maybe have some visuals for us?
Sure. I will say, we're on a time crunch to get design completed. Your next meeting is April
10.
And then this is an issue that the planning commission also brought up too, so it might expedite things if you're able to listen in on the planning commission's meeting on the 21st of next week. We'll have the draft on the 17th. I can also just share it with you via email. I definitely want you all to see it. I felt reaffirmed, this is personal opinion again, I felt very reaffirmed in our decision to place the stage where it was at after I saw it staked. I walked the site, I saw the photos, I feel confident that we are responding to the need to accommodate more people during 13 nights and not have this like spill over onto the sides of the existing gazebo. And that's how I felt, and I'm hoping that we can all get to that point.
So how many people do you expect to come to these events? I mean, because I'm thinking about parking. And it doesn't look like there's gonna be a whole lot of parking. Number, so.
Yeah, I think if we have a parking problem, we're doing awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
No, in all seriousness, there will be a lot more on-street parking on the waterfront. It's just that it's under construction currently, so we're all gonna experience growing pains of the under construction limited,
But the reality of it is the parking over by Old John Gum High School, that could be advertised maybe a little better. That is only a 5-minute walk away or less. Yeah, I mean.
I also just think events don't just exponentially grow. I think it will be incremental. I think we're already seeing 13 nights grow, our community's growing, all those apartments going in, we're gonna have more people attending our community events and they're gonna be locals. We're not necessarily talking about drawing in people. We're just talking about accommodating our existing events. That's our backyard, our living room, right? Like that's where we host events and we're already hosting. So, that's what we're responding to. We're not trying to say we're gonna draw in,
I go to 13 minutes quite
talent.
frequently, and I'd say 2/3,
Yeah, thank you so much.
or I'd say 2/3 are actually the people from out of town when I talk to them. So,
That's great.
Yeah.
Coming to a free show, they're eating our food.
Yeah, I mean, that's wanted to actually, it's a great design, I think, for the stage. I'm just concerned about where it's the location. And, just would like to be able to, such a nice design of stage, utilize it for other events and bigger events. So
Yeah.
that's been my main concern all the way through.
My other main just before I lose this thought, my other main takeaway after walking the site when it was staked out was that this change is not that substantial. We're pushing it back. It's not that much of a difference from where it's at today. What we're doing is pushing it back slightly, and I feel like it accommodates more people ultimately. And you have to keep in mind the park is expanding 0.6 acres the other direction too. So the park is gonna feel different. I mean, it's gonna be change. And I think that's what everybody's like very scared about is like, it's a big change. I get it.
Well, there's a big traffic circle coming in too out there, isn't
Yes.
there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at the site plan behind you, Cowlitz is gonna be extended and kind of bookend the park expansion. And there's gonna be a brand new playground that's in there. It's not gonna be the existing play equipment that's there. The park is gonna feel different when the Riverwalk is built. I mean, it's gonna extend beyond that chain link fence. I mean, there's a good 10 feet beyond the chain link fence that you're gonna actually be able to walk along the water. I mean, they're big differences. It's hard to capture all of the changes, but sorry.
No, that's okay, just realistically, so that I can wrap my brain around the possibility of suggestions. At the stage of development that we are in right now with the park and the constructions that is coming, what does the realistic timeline look like? Say we sit in for the planning commission meeting and for whatever reason, the commission as a whole felt that they wanted to make suggestions to city council for changes for the gazebo itself specifically. Realistically, what are we looking at as far as like a timeline for recommending those changes, and would they realistically get put in place?
So right now, the consultants are in a holding pattern. They're
Okay.
not moving forward with design until we can get this rendering back and
Yeah.
all feel comfortable. That said, ultimately it comes down to the staff that's managing the project and the city council. You are all an advisory board. So, chain of command, that's realistic.
So hope we just get to see it before the decisions are made, since it is a city park,
Sure.
Yeah.
you know.
But council is still in agreement at this time to move forward with the plans as they have been presented thus far, or
Council
looking at
approved
changing?
the amendment to add this rendering to the scope.
Okay.
It delayed the design about a month. So that's where council is at.
Okay,
I think everybody wants to get it right, like you said.
yeah,
And this isn't something that just cropped up. It's like Jenny said, it's been in the discussion for 2 years and there's been
Yeah.
lots of input. Personally, I think I would have a problem with it if the park was staying in its current state. But like Jenny said, it's not. So a lot of people do sit in that amphitheater seating, but a lot of people don't too. A lot of them sit over by the little outcropping up top where the picnic tables are. A lot of people sit over closer to the playground. So the fact that it is tilted a little bit and it accommodates where the park is going and where a lot of people will be sitting, I think is a plus. So, but again, I think the attitude of everybody is we want to make sure it's right, want to make sure it's in a good spot for everybody to enjoy. And I think seeing these new renderings just hopefully will help everybody to come to a good conclusion.
It is a
So
red.
when you say tilt, what do you mean by tilting?
Well, it's not facing the amphitheater seating directly.
it's
See the
rotated.
diagram back here, Lynn?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, so from that diagram, we reacted to this was 60%. We reacted to feedback, we pushed it up slightly, and we oriented it to be more centered from this. This is a 60%, the 90% twisted it a little bit and pushed it forward a little bit so that it wasn't such a tight Riverwalk area behind it. And when it's a 2D plan is different than actually feeling it when you're on the site. And when the corners were staked, I walked the whole seating again, and there's no bad seating. Like, you're not going to be tilting your head at a weird angle. Right now you do that. The gazebo, if you're sitting on the side of the amphitheater seating, you're looking at the sides of the musician for about I don't know, 30% of that seating is bad seating, I would say. Yes, you're close. You do get very intimate. You could see the sweat dripping from their nose as they're performing, but there is not a bad seat in the house with this design. So if we can get the sound right and if we can get everyone feeling comfortable with the change, I think we will have succeeded. Because it is a change and it is a big deal.
Well,
The stake's still down there, Jenny.
I don't know if they survived because it was at least 2 weeks ago. I meant to check before this meeting.
I did take a few pictures. I'm sure you've got some too that.
We're gonna have photos too. When we show the rendering, we'll show all the photos we have so you can see it. But the photos are deceiving because you're gonna see the existing gazebo in your way, right? So the rendering is nice because they can, take it out using technology. They can take it out and then renderize the stage. And one thing we haven't talked about is that berm, the landscaped berm that's gonna kind of create this bowl feel that amphitheaters try to do. And the other thing is grading the park. The stage is gonna be lower, the dance floor is gonna be kind of the lowest point in the park, and the stage will be elevated a couple feet. So there's just a lot of pieces to this other than just the 2D site plan.
it is still, I mean, it's gonna be new and all that, but it's still partially a retrofit with what's already there.
Yeah,
With that. And I'm wondering what would be, if you started it, without anything there, what would you build? What would be the optimal?
I don't know. It's just it's not what we're doing. We wanted to honor the step seating is in good shape. I mean, we also wanted to honor the volunteers that spent
Yes.
hours and years to get that seating in.
But with the, if you go to any type of concert or anything, the most expensive seats are front and center. So that's why that is with the amphitheaters. The other
Usually the most,
element between the stage and the seating, there's two elements.
I see
So-
concerts with general admission being the most expensive, the front, right in front, right, the dance floor would be general admission, GA seats.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're looking at just dancing, I mean,
Sure.
I'm hoping that, to utilize, that way you get to utilize it for other, performances. I mean, it's a really nice stage, it's a nice spot, and you utilize to actually drive, some people here during the weekends to drive the economy.
Well, I'm excited to look at the renderings. I look forward to email. You said you can send it out to us.
So I'll probably just do it through our secretary. I'll send it to Melissa. Yeah, glad I was here for the discussion and thank you.
Really appreciate that.
Stuck around.
Thank you.
I'm confident we'll get it right. I think everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants.
Yes, I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah.
I think we'll get there, but I think it's gonna be such a benefit, such a plus to the community to have a stage that's specifically designed for this. That gazebo was designed for weddings and picnics. It wasn't designed as a sound stage, so I think it's gonna be good once we get it.
Thank you so much. Okay, really good discussion. I do encourage, for those of you who are extra interested in this to check out the planning commission meeting, review those plans. If you have any questions or anything, and you'd like to discuss them at our next meeting, please let me know. And also, if you're looking to get anything on the agenda for next time, go ahead and email ahead of time. So if you'd like to discuss that further, questions, we can do that.
When was the planning commission meeting?
21st.
21st. And so. Any further questions or? Move on? You good? Okay, so regarding the interview subcommittee, so we do have an applicant that we'd like to review and move forward, making a suggestion to the council. And so with Councillor Sundin's help, I'd like to request an interview subcommittee be created so that we can interview the current candidate and make our recommendation.
It's 3 people last time, is that correct? Okay. Are there individuals that haven't been involved before that would like to?
I was not involved last time, I would like to. I do understand that sometimes schedule's a conflict for me.
Especially as chair, I'd like to see you
Yeah,
involved.
I'd love to be
And
there.
ask one.
I would once.
We did last time.
Yeah, what about Lauren?
Lauren, would you like to be involved?
You were involved last time, were you?
I would not be interested in being part of that subcommittee. Thank you, though.
Is there anybody that's extra interested? Lynn? There's no objections, so we'll have Dana, Lynn, and Howard.
Alright. And so you will,
Make a motion or?
yeah, so I guess I'd like to make a motion that, from my understanding of the email, is that Brandon would then make the recommendation to the
So you're just
subcommittee,
recommending those.
to the city council, they approve it, and then we can move forward with the interview process.
Good.
And so, does that require a motion or just simply a request for Brandon?
I don't think last time there were specific individuals named.
So I think we're just moving forward then.
That works.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, did anyone have time to look through the municipal code and have anything they wanted to bring forward? We discussed it quickly at the last meeting because we talked about the leash laws and how they differed from location to location in the municipal code. So did anyone, I wanted to leave space at this meeting to see if anyone had any other changes that they found or discrepancies that they'd like to address.
Mainly big discrepancies, well, where we need to update it is just with the two new dog parks that we have aren't included in that. And then I think we need to discuss a little bit, because in some points, the 16 feet or 8 feet or 6 foot leash law,
Okay,
because it's listed two ways and everybody has a good idea about it, but I'm concerned to see the 16 foot because that's a 32 foot circle.
yeah,
That's a huge circle for if you're walking your dog, for dogs to go off trails. We've got some in Nob Hill right now that are doing a lot of scratching. And so it's one thing, okay, we're losing 6 feet on the side of the trail versus our native plants are over that whole area. Now we're talking 16 feet. A lot more damage could be done in a nature park.
yeah.
You know, so I don't know if we can get into that. I don't know how we go about that, making some recommendations on.
Are we able to
things.
request from city council that they make, I guess, add it into the municipal code or adjust the municipal code that it,
If you have suggestions or
Yeah.
things that you'd like to see adjusted,
yeah,
come to a conclusion with your group first and then forward those on.
I'd like to discuss then and possibly make a motion to have a 6 foot leash law for all city parks. I think that would be appropriate, it'd be beneficial for our parks and our nature areas, and especially as we invite more and more people into places like the botanical gardens and Nob Hill especially. I think it's vital for the local flora to keep foot traffic, both human and domestic animal, on the trails, and 6 feet leash law, I think would help facilitate that.
So I mean, after reading parts of it, so I brought my iPad, it keeps making noise because I keep getting texting. But I think, to me, when I read the leash law, I think it's pretty well examined and stated in it. I don't know if you want me to open it up and read you what it says or not.
I don't have it in front of me, but does it specifically state 6 feet, or you said that?
You know, that part
from place to
doesn't,
place?
but it talks about the specifics of at large versus off leash.
Okay.
And I think it's more than adequate. I don't know if you want me to pull it, see if I can pull it up real quickly or not.
I guess if we're talking about making changes, I'd like to reread it and try to pull it up.
See if it's possible to bring it up this quick. Here.
It's been a couple of weeks since I looked at it, but I didn't have any objections with what was there, other than, like we said, there are two different spots in the municipal code where one states 6 feet and then the other is 16, which to me seems like a
Yes.
little extreme.
So can we make a suggestion to change that so that it's all 6 feet?
I don't see why not.
No, well, we're gonna discuss that. I'm not for that. I'll tell you why. You know, I walk my dogs on a regular basis. Almost every day, in fact. Not very far, and then sometimes a long ways. I have no problem with the 6 foot or 8 foot in a park. Absolutely none. There's a reason for that, keep the dogs, on the trail so they're not destroying natural habitat. But I know some people feel like, people let their dogs run around. I haven't seen any problem with a longer leash with people using it. Now, there is a potential that people, they walk their dogs and they're not careful and the dogs can get in people's ways and things. But when I'm walking the streets, which I've done for almost 50 years here, I have a retractable leash, and I've never measured how long it is, but I'm sure it's 16 feet. It's getting close to that anyway, or 12. It goes out there quite a ways. And I don't see that as a hindrance. I haven't read too many things about dogs getting killed by cars running around. I haven't read too many stories. If you have your dog on a leash and you're responsible, when I see a car coming or I see, another dog coming, I reel my leash in, but when I'm walking on the sidewalks or walking the streets, I like for my dog to kind of, get some exercise and walk around. And I just think that, yeah, I can see changing it for the parks.
Yeah, that's where.
But why do we need to change it for the city? If someone came in and we started having multiple problems with, dogs walking on the sidewalk, dogs walking on the street, change it. But if there's no reason to change the law or the leash, why do it? I mean, yes, parks, yes. Otherwise, I haven't seen, I don't know, that the city gets complaints about people with too long of leashes or not.
Usually they don't even follow the leash law, quite honest with you. All day long, every park, there's dogs running wild.
Right.
Nobody obeys the leash.
My recommendation would only be for the city parks and not.
Well,
for
but
the
that's my
city
point too,
parks.
but I mean, I don't, I'm just saying, yeah, parks, yes, general, no, but I mean, that's my opinion. And, I'm, it's like a group decision, like where do you put the gazebo, or where do you put the stage? I don't want to be involved in that, but when you get a lot of people together and they look at all the different things, usually you come up with a pretty good decision. And what I'm saying is, if people think that I'm wrong, then vote the other way. I don't hold too many grudges.
Well, that's why this is more of just kind of a housekeeping thing.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
One is to add 2 more parks to technically what's legal to have your dog off leash at in our parks.
Yeah,
And then clarify that in city parks, it's a 6 foot leash.
okay,
That's probably what I'm after the most at this time.
yeah,
I think it should be simple to amend hopefully our city code in those 2 spots.
yeah. So
Do you
how,
have to do the whole city code, or can you make it in the parks?
That's what I'm
Parks
saying.
and trails rules and.
Well, that's what I'm saying is in the park.
What it is, and then change just for the parks.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the municipal code covers just parks for dogs.
So here's what it says under the park regulations under the city code. Except as provided herein, pets are prohibited from being at large in any city park. At large means not on a leash as set forth herein. Pets are permitted in city parks unless otherwise posted, only if they are on a leash that is 6 feet or less in length.
Okay.
Buck just showed me their park regulations, which says 5 feet, so I think it would be good to make sure that those two are on the same page.
There's a third, I mean, we've got 3 ways now.
Rules of conduct says 5 feet, so
okay,
there's a discrepancy there.
so I would like to ask for consistency
Saturday.
with the
In a
6
city
feet
park.
in a city park. And that is not including the 2, or we have 2 or 3 dogs.
3 off leash
So
parks.
that's not including the off-leash dog areas. All other areas in city parks have consistent language of 6 feet.
So I think that should be an easy fix because it's already in here, so I think, but we just need to make sure it's changed in your guys' stuff.
So we probably should make a recommendation, I would imagine.
Do we have to make a motion to request that they be updated to
think we
be
should.
consistent?
If it's going to city council and changing code, it should.
But we're not requesting to change
The
code.
city code is staying the same, so I don't know if anything needs to be done
We're just
there.
making our park rules match the city code.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and then increasing the off leash areas from just McCormick Park to add Heine
So
Human.
then the next part, C here, mentions that they are allowed off leash in McCormick Park dog area, but you would like that updated to mention the other
It should also be in Heine Human.
Yeah, Tiny Human,
I'm-
Great Cliffs, isn't it?
on that.
Great Cliffs does have it.
Yeah, and Great Cliffs.
It's designated.
Yeah.
We got 3 off-leash parks.
So that you would like to make a motion then to update the
That
municipal.
one I believe probably would because it's an adjustment to what's already there.
Okay.
Would you like to do that?
Make a motion to the municipal code.
I'm not ready yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Great Cliffs Park, I was gonna discuss something with you about that. Hopefully I get together with you this week. Because we could do something else with that. I've talked to Jerry about that. Can we hold off on that aspect of this until next meeting?
Oh, so you'd like to discuss the off-leash dog park at Great Cliffs?
Yeah,
Okay,
Well, it just mean we have to delay the whole thing another month.
right.
well, but just everything, do everything except with Great Cliffs.
Well, I'd like to only make one recommendation to city council, change the municipal code at one time. So if you'd like to postpone until next month and have a discussion about the dog park in the meantime, we can do that.
Yeah, if I could, it could be a benefit, I think,
Okay. Are you guys okay with that?
if you're okay with that.
I'm just hoping to get it's over
Yeah.
with, was all.
Yeah, what is your, can I ask your concern with the dog park?
I'm gonna meet with Tina again about the rose garden here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping to, actually, she has money to make that into a kind of a small stage area and stuff. So they have the rose bushes there. I've talked to Jerry when we were walking around about having that particular spot, which is a prime spot right next to the river, making that into a formal garden, that little aspect there.
Oh, changing the off-leash park to a like a rose garden or a.
A formal garden type of thing, because we don't have one of those. We don't have one of those in the city. I mean, there's plenty around Portland, people enjoy it. I enjoyed it when I lived in Portland. So that's why I was hoping to hold off on that until I got with Pete.
I'm confused, Scott. What does the rose garden have to do with the off leash?
We can transfer the rose plants over to the off-leash area. To the Great Cliffs, we could transfer them over. And that'd be the, start.
I would just note too, I believe that piece of property is county
It
property.
is county property.
So
But this,
I don't know if they'd just be giving away rose bushes, but.
Yeah, and I just can't see rose bushes
no, it's,
are a hard thing to transplant.
Yeah.
Tina has money to actually to do something on this over here. And I'm hoping to get with Tina on it and then get with the county on it to see if we can go ahead with this, because again, she has the money and it'd be a great spot to do a lot of things, we could have it. Because she was talking about on the wall over there, having a small stage there, could also have other elements in there. I'm thinking that it could be used as a, for, certain nights, maybe even on 13 nights, have, a showing of art or photographs, people to sell their stuff on that. It could be really help with the dynamics of, this area downtown.
So I think on that note, I would like to move forward with requesting the change in the municipal code to include the Great Cliffs Park. At this time, because I think that would be a discussion that could take some time. There's a lot of variables. And I also believe there may be if in the future they decide to move the roses and want to pick another location, I think there's some other locations in the city that could also work really well for that particular choice. I also know that the dog park up at Great Cliffs is a location that many people take their dogs and enjoy it. And so removing it would require a lot of discussion and approval from the council.
It's all
So,
rocky up there too, so.
yeah,
I didn't want to agree offense, but I agree. I would like to see us move forward with
Yeah,
with
I
the
agree.
6 foot
at
leash
this time. And we
in
can,
parks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, Dana, so there is another part under the municipal code under animal control.
okay,
This is where it says pets in city parks. Pets are permitted in city parks only if they are on a leash that is 16 feet or less in length. So that
That
will
doesn't,
also need to be amended to be consistent.
okay. So,
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm wondering, if we just don't make a motion that, we know that there's discrepancies in multiple places in our city parks for what a dog leash should be, and we'd like to see that it become uniform. 6 feet
mhm.
in all city parks.
So would you like to make the motion then that we request that city council update the municipal code so that
Yeah.
all leash requirements be
That's why I'm wondering if we just don't do,
consistent at 6 feet?
to me, we just do it as kind of a package here. That we make, update the municipal code for the city parks so that leashes are 6 feet or less. And that we then include Gray Cliffs and Heine Human Dog Parks to be included as a off-leash area as McCormick Park is.
Okay. Would anyone like to second that motion? Okay, so all in favor of updating the municipal code to include consistency of the 6-foot language for a leash and include the 2 additional dog parks, say aye.
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 Lauren's got her hand up.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Does that sound like something you can take to them, Brad?
So send it on.
To me, it's just housekeeping, just to make the stuff be full update.
That's appropriate, and thank you so much. And we can definitely discuss further options and other changes in the parks that you'd like to in the future, absolutely. Okay. Thank you, guys. Any other questions, changes, or anything to the municipal code before we move on?
Down below.
All right,
Well,
I didn't have anything to add there. All right, so park field trips. Guys, sorry, I'd like to move on. Regarding park field trips, I would like to invite everyone to a field trip to Campbell Park. April 15th, it's a Saturday. Is it the 13th? The 15th, I believe, should be Saturday, April 15th.
Right.
At 12 o'clock. So that we can take a walk around the park, look at the existing structures, just kind of get an idea of what's there and some of the changes, if you guys haven't physically seen the changes that have come in place in the last couple of years, and discuss possible options of moving forward with the park. I know we didn't update the master plan, but I'd like to show you guys the buildings that I've been discussing as well in person while we're there.
And the whole master plan hasn't been changed, but we did do updates.
Okay.
That's along the way, along the years.
Perfect, okay, thank you.
You and I gonna meet at Campbell Park before that day?
I would like to,
Me too.
yeah,
I would like to explain some things.
yes, I have lots of questions. And would anyone else like to plan a field trip to their parks while we're on that topic?
I have a question. If my calendar permits me, do I have permission to be at this field trip at Campbell?
Please, and thank you. Okay. All right, so then let's talk about the Dalton Lake and Walnut Park updates.
What happened with last year? 2022. I'll wait for Melissa to get that pulled up.
Presentation here.
Melissa knows I've got a backup, on a thumb drive.
Let's see if this one works.
My laptop still isn't correct. Will the laser light work on the presentation?
You try it.
Yeah, I'll try. Laser light, just over the cat toys.
That's funny.
She was right.
To drive it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I was sadistic. What?
No. I'm trying to get it done. Just trying to get. That's what I'm wondering. Maybe let's try that. Alright. This, maybe because there's something over there. Over there now.
Last on the list.
There you go.
Okay. Alright, so, the next slide. So, as it says, Dalton Lake Nature Preserve, 56 acres was established in October of 2019. And I'm gonna report on that first. And the Columbia River Estuary Study Task Force, which is known as CREF, started this Dalton project actually in about late 2019, and they started with studies. And so it's been not a short time that they've been, getting information and doing research, and they even had a diver go down to see if they could find certain species of fish at all. So there's a lot that has gone into that. But it was a major restoration to connect or reconnect Dalton Lake to the Columbia River. And the main reason for that is with this BPA grant, it wanted to allow the smolts to rest as they head on their migration to the Pacific Ocean. So they had to take out the water control structure. And as you can see in some of the writing I have here, it was a group beside the grant from Bonneville Power Administration. The Oregon Department of Transportation that owns the property was in on all the meetings and all the research that they found. And the Dalton Lake Advisory Committee, which I'm part of, with 3 other specialists that are naturalists, as well as our extension agent of 40 years here in St. Helens, and a specialist in macroinvertebrates and everything from bats to birds and to smaller invertebrates. So they help form all this with the CREST group and in our meetings. And I gotta say, we were allowed to ask any questions we had. A lot of people were concerned about the beavers leaving and not coming back because they were integral in this plan to keep the Dalton Lake at a certain level, water level. And in the past, the beaver dams were taken down. And so we're trying to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore. And Dalton Lake has been used from everything from cattle to logging floating logs for, this was 100 years ago, for shipbuilding and various endeavors. And so in order to create this new channel for the salmon smelts, they had to take out the water control structure. And let's see here. If you go to the next slide, I have a picture of where that was. It was right in the middle of where that new bridge is. And it's a 65-foot bridge that used to be just a trail. And the trail went over the culvert that went to the Columbia. Well, it wasn't really allowing the flow of water going back and forth between the Columbia and Dalton to be a good ground for the salmon smalts. So they carved out that channel. They started in July of 2022. And they took out so much rock and that had been used for the culvert, and it had been covered over. They didn't even know that until they got into it. It had been covered over with concrete. So they had like 50 truckloads to take out of there before they could really start the work on the culvert. And I would go down from time to time and talk to the contractors that were digging. And some of the problems they had was the beavers are so good at what they do. They had a little bit of water come in. And as they were trying to take it out, you know, the beavers were actually helping them, you know, by creating 2 other lodges and dams. So they took out approximately 1/4 of an acre of invasive reed canary grass at the eastern edge of Dalton Lake. So I don't know if everybody has been down there and seen that. There is, as you come in, you're heading east. And it was around that curve to the right on the Columbia River side that they took that reed canary grass out. They left the willows in there because the willows tend to, they don't let the sunshine in that the reed canary grass likes, and will spread that way. So part of the project was to reseed with native plants as well as trees. And so that has been done. And it says the beaver dams now are made primarily of willow sticks, grass mud, and whatever logs and branches they can find. Their primary diet is not wood, but forbs and bulbs. So that means wildflowers, like wapato, though they certainly eat the bark and willows, ash, and dogwood. The planting efforts is going to be very important for the next decade because we have what's known as the ash borer that is rooting our ash trees. And they found some in Washington County, and their the extension office here is there's people working in forestry and soil and water conservation district, and all working these different agencies to make sure that it doesn't get in. They're looking for any evidence. But so in order to replace any dying ash that happens to fall to this borer, they're going to be putting in cottonwood, maple, white, and red alder, and shrubs like black hawthorn and spiderwheel. And the next slide shows some of the. They're only putting in non-invasives in there, so it might be a certain type.
Okay.
Yeah, great. I know about that. But so the list of upland plantings are Pacific Madrone, Oregon White Oak, Big Leaf, Maple, Nootka Rose, and the common camas and blue elderberry and snowberry. And as you can see, the other list is for marsh plain plantings and understory plantings. Now, I did not add all of the plantings or all of the different things that they want to plant because the list was way too long. And this next picture here was taken in November, and I couldn't help but put this in. It was just beautiful.
Outrageous.
The clouds and you're looking northeast there at Dawn Lake. And that's pretty much what's happened there. It's a big story. I'm trying to condense it, but I just talked to the coordinator at Crest, and he said that recently the canal has changed a little bit. It kind of folded in a little. So they're going to clean that out again and plant new willows. And he said, we've got most of the seeding and the planting done, but we'll be doing more next year. And he says, beaver continue to chew down the small trees that were saved during the project. So the site is still evolving, but they're doing a good job. The beavers and what they're supposed to be doing.
Lynn, when would they know if the work that they did there is successful, if it did what they wanted it to?
They're gonna keep an eye on it for the next couple of years. And like I said, they're gonna go in and reevaluate how many seedings did not happen because it's been so wet, too. So if we have a big berm too at the, as you come into the preserve, there's a berm that was created from the scouring that they did, and they've planted there as well. So they're just going to keep an eye on it and see that things are going well with it. And they'll do that for about 5 years.
That's probably the law is 5 years. My question is, you said, it's supposed to be for smolt. I understand,
Sounds
that,
small.
that there used to be lots of wetlands. And so are they gonna go in there and do surveys on the smolt in the next 5 years?
I would guess that they're going to do that.
I'd be interested to see if
Because
smolt
that's the whole
actually,
point of it.
I'd be interested to see if smolt really started going there. It looks to me like the lake's a little deeper now than it used to be. Is that correct?
It looks like it now.
Is that-
It dries up a little bit in the summer months.
Oh, I've
but
seen it totally dry.
They're
Yeah.
hoping that, yes. But they're hoping that we have, I think, a total of 3 beaver dams right now. So they're going to some of the offshoots and doing some of the dams there. And I think we have 2 lodges as well. So it's it's a work in progress, I think. And so they're going to be monitoring. I'll be monitoring as well as the advisory committee. So.
I like the idea that they open that up to the river.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the bridge is beautiful too. They've done a really good job on that. And we do have the 3 benches down there you've been down there and seen those at our trails. And we hope to be putting later on this spring, probably a historical kiosk down there, which will be pointing kind of northeast. Where the shipbuilding had taken place, and the museum will be working on that. In fact, Wes came down with me and walked the area where it's going to be and did some measurements and asked what we wanted, what he wanted, to see down there. And we'll have a bench down there as well. So,
Are there any
Pretty neat.
remains from the shipbuilding?
just some pilings you see.
Oh, no,
Yeah, I thought there was
there's,
a second ship that somebody
Well,
said, yeah,
there-
out there.
I used to go down there all the time. Not anymore. I used to go down on a regular basis. Yeah, there were several ships there. It's pretty impressive that shipbuilding that was down there. Yeah, there's sunken ships there too, at least 2 of them. I kind of asked them to get rid of them. They might be covered up more now or rotted. more.
Still see parts of them on the beach there certain times, but most of those, they were brought in by the guy that owned it after the shipyards, just kind of filled.
Kind of dumped them there.
Yeah, he dumped them there, so they're not from the era, but yeah, there's still ships buried in there.
Well, the ships they built there were big ships. I mean, we're not talking little bitty ships.
I've never seen that, but I've just
Is
seen
there
the
any photographs?
pilings, where they
Sure.
were. So it'd be interesting.
That show.
Oh, that's right, you're a historian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
I'll show you some when we're done here.
Weren't they ships that were built for World War One?
Yeah, World War I era is when it was a big deal. Yeah, big wooden ships.
Any other questions?
I was just wondering if you guys had any plans up at the top level of Dalton Lake, because the trails up there, they overgrow frequently, and And if you had any, I know we discussed previously about that cliff edge. Do you guys have any plans up there at all?
Yeah, we do have plans and what we want to do, but everything that we have in the park has been donated.
Uh-huh.
So it takes time and people to donate those things. So we wanted a split rail fence just to, and maybe a simple sign that let people know that it was dangerous, because there's about 100-foot drop there. And so, and we do plan on putting, there's a concrete pad already there, and so we're gonna be putting another bench there as well. So it just takes time to get all those things that you want. But as far as redoing the trails, it all depends on if we could get that private property donated. And if we don't, then we're gonna have to carve out a new trail that's on the property.
Yeah.
For the preserve, but
So, I mean, I know this, so I know where the current trail is, it goes down to the Cedar Grove there, and that goes through private property, right?
yes, yes.
So where would the trail have to be relocated?
It'd have to be the one that, excuse me, is closer to the edge when you go to the left, when you're overlooking the water. And it goes, it's just too close to the edge. So what we'd have to do is bring it in further so it's safer. And it would take some work. And the same thing with the Brownlow property down there on the east side. We'd have to carve out a new trail closer to the.
So, but the trail that goes down the lake, would it be down by where the bench is and the bike rack? Is that how you'd have to go in there? Would you have to go farther down, farther north on the trail and then you get back in there?
Yes. Well, we're gonna have to just keep it as close. We've got the property lines pretty much figured out. So we're just gonna have to go and make it further in, away from the overlook. So as you're going north, you'd have to go down that trail, but we're gonna carve it so it's not so far to the edge.
So where does the, just kind of a vague description, if you are looking at the current, say I'm gonna take a right off of the paved walking trail and I'm going to go down towards the Cedar Grove. If that's one point of reference, and then the bench and the bicycle rack is another point of reference, about how far is the property line from private property to the park?
It's about 5 acres that you're talking about that goes down the hill from where you cross in that to go to the overlook.
Yeah.
So we'd have to have another trail come in from somewhere that goes or in that property of ours, you know, and go back up to the overlook because we couldn't use the private property.
So is all of that land there then between those two marks, is that all private property?
Yes, down to where, you know, where the halfway down, there is a bench that was donated by the Lions and they have a resting area there.
Yeah, with a little bike rack.
Yeah, it'd be probably in that area that we'd have to start out.
And you'd go, then you'd head east and
Then
then,
we'd have to.
and then
right,
head back
right.
south to the
That's right.
cliff.
Yeah.
How far back from the cliff is Dalton Lake property?
Good. 70, gosh,
Quite a bit though.
quite a bit, more
Okay.
than 100 feet.
Okay.
That would work.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens and I'll keep everybody updated on that. Any other questions? Excuse me, I'm losing my voice.
Is there any chance of access into Dalton Lake besides what it is right now?
That's what we were talking about. If we can't get access, we're gonna have to carve. We
I'm
can
talking
carve
about
trails.
from, going by through Elks, the Elks, over there anyway.
Yeah.
And,
That's their, no,
no.
No, that's not gonna
Yeah.
work.
no, yeah.
Mhm.
So I even took a look at just going past the Elks on Belton, where you see that power pole is before the first house there. That is actually our property, so we could use it, but you start walking down there and it's just too steep.
Mm.
So I thought that's gonna be out.
Where's this at, Lynn?
Not very far from your place.
Yeah, I know.
So just past the Elks, as you start
Go
heading
down the
down,
hill.
there is a house on the left-hand side. It's right on the side there. You'll see this big pole. That's actually part of the property.
Oh, the telephone pole.
Mhm.
So because I've walked down that gully numerous times, and you can go down the gully. I mean, at least I used to be able to go down. I don't know if I could now, but then you couldn't go to the right because that runs into people's private property. But if you veer to that's probably too
That's
steep.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's probably
And
not
there's a
gonna work.
cliff there too.
Probably not gonna work, yeah.
Pretty steep. In fact, that's about 75 to 100 feet too.
Yeah.
So that would be another, that's what we're gonna have to think of in the future, if that happens, so.
But you tried to get the person that owns that to donate that.
And that, I probably will try again. Because he was considering it, but that's where it stayed right now. So are there any other questions? Okay, next park is Walnut Tree Park, cute little pocket park. The history of the park centers around a tree that is well over 100 years old. And the previous owners wanted to cut the tree down and sell the property, but the community got together and asked for the tree and lot to be saved. When going to the city, the Kiwanis said, look, we'll take care of it, we'll mow the lawn, we'll pull the weeds, plant some flowers, and that's what they've been doing since about 2004. So, in fact, my husband's one of the people that mow the lawn there. There's 3 men that mow the lawn and they take turns and have a calendar and one, they'll take 1 month and we'll take another, but they do that for 6 months out of the year. And then the walnuts start falling and you can't do much with that.
We'll get them up and sell
Well, some people could. So today is a place for the community to walk their dog with. Bags are provided on a post. And I see people sitting to eat their lunches in the summertime at the picnic table and it's shaded and it's just, you could grab a book from the St. Helens Little Library and or just sit, I see people just sitting on the bench and just looking at the tree and just relaxing. So and the community has often said how much they enjoy this park and how much they appreciate it. And for a long time now, we don't know who it is, but they'll come and plant little flowers, in front of the bench or they try to water them, or they'll try and, put something around the little, there's a post with a doggy bag on it that the city provides, and they'll put flowers around there. So it's really well taken care of and loved by the community. So that park is doing very well, and I've got some pictures, not the best pictures from, if you went there during the summer, you can see it in full bloom. And actually I could get some of the flowers in there, but I'll have to come back at another time and bring you some more pictures. Are there any questions about Walnut Tree? Recently, we found out that there was electricity there and nobody knew it.
Yeah.
And we found out that we really didn't need it, so I called the Kiwanian and they said, no, we don't use it, so we're saving the city about $500 a
Yay.
year. Yeah,
Thank you.
So is the tree healthy?
the tree is healthy, yes. And it's been cut several times, the lower branches, if they get, it's old. And so if anything is dangling or anything, that the city takes care of that.
That's a big walnut tree.
Yeah. But the community loved it so much, they couldn't stand to see it go.
Yeah, and on behalf of the parks, I'd like to thank the Kiwanis. That's a great deal you got going there. Keep it up. If you want to expand, we got bigger parks.
That's interesting. That was a good report.
So that's the end of my report. All right.
All right. Is there any old business to discuss? Okay.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't know. Oh, discussion item.
Okay, all right, action items. We don't really have any action items from, today's meeting so far, except for maybe encouraging, those who are interested to check out the planning department meeting in regards to the waterfront park gazebo amphitheater. Yeah, for those who are interested, and again, if you have any, questions or proposed suggestions from that, by all means.
And
bring it back.
you already put in the application for Citizens Day.
I did, I got the application in for Citizens Day of the park, so we are approved for that and we will be there. We'll discuss all the further details in May over that.
Minor question about that. Do we have to be careful we don't have too many of the commissioners there at one time? Because then that could be considered a quorum.
I think it's the same for the city council. I think if they just announce it ahead of time that you're gonna be there.
Okay.
There's the expectation that you're not gonna be
We're not
making any decisions.
Yeah, business, yeah.
Yeah. Imagine there'll be something like that.
Okay, oh, same with, so that my trip to Campbell Park then, do we have to announce that there will be possible quorum?
They have to, I can find out.
Needs to ask Kathy.
Okay, yeah, let me know what I need to do for them.
Kathy, that's a good one to go to.
Because once again, I mean, we wouldn't be conducting business, didn't we have to kind of say that when we did Sand Island last year?
Yeah, so how did you guys?
We were discussing things though, so we're discussing like at Campbell Park, you know, what's gonna be done where, and this is, you know, I don't know if that.
But no decisions
It's
were
not
made, right?
No
decisions,
decision.
no.
Right.
So we're just talking about where we're at.
So I'll email Kathy then about a possible quorum at the April 15th trip to Campbell Park then, with the understanding that have no intention on making official decisions. Does that sound right? Okay.
Same with citizens.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yes.
I was gonna ask if you could send out the schedule for parks updates for each one of us.
Yes, and it is in the notes for the meetings for last month, in case you guys don't have that as well. But I will email out, I'll probably send it to Melissa, I guess, first, but just a list of what months each person will be doing their parks presentation. Okay, so then staff report, please.
Oh, that's me. So first off, I'll start with, I'd like to thank Tina for the use of her porta potty for the Knobville Park party. That's nice of her to let us use that, and she continues to let us use that. As far as work in parks, we've made repairs to the horseshoe boards at Godfrey Park. We've repaired wooden bleachers on ballpark benches, getting ready for baseball and softball seasons, which is right in the lap right now, with the ground totally saturated, works out great. We've been doing some stump grinding at Campbell, Heine Human, and McCormick, just in various locations. The power has been removed from Walnut Tree Park, as we said. If I remove get the thing that holds the meter, it's the meter box. Once I remove that off of the pole, they will come and remove the pole. So we don't just have an ugly pole sitting there. So that will be coming up in the near future. We're continuing to investigate a fence at Godfrey Park. We had I can't remember if I brought this up the last one or not, but we had a very concerned citizen about, I'm sure this has come up in the past, how close the slide, we call them monkey bars, the elevated bars and the seesaws are to the cliff that is the storm ravine there. And they are within 15 feet in several spots. They're close. She's raised concern about that and wants to know why there's not a fence there. I've had several discussions with engineering about it. At first, I kind of jumped the gun and didn't really get my boots on the ground in time, and it gave her kind of a bad answer. I afterwards apologized to her about that and had told her that we're gonna try to make things right, just please be patient. Our concern, of course, is kids and pets falling off these edges. So with engineering, there's kind of laws and kind of not laws, kind of gray, so we're working through that still. Our options right now, what we're thinking is partial fencing, fencing the whole area that we because of price. And it's solid rock. So if we could maybe fence, I don't know how many feet it would be, but if you go to the park, it would be from before the slide going towards Columbia Boulevard, past the other equipment there. That's, I think, probably going to be our best bet to please people. It's just kind of gray with, but it is a safety factor. She's concerned. She's brought it up. She knows other people that are concerned about it. And if you go and look, yeah, I think she's probably right. So that's something we're trying to address.
How long has the park been there? I mean, the playground equipment.
Forever.
Long time. It was brought up to maybe move that equipment. It's so old that we can't move it and put it back in the ground. It wouldn't be the modern rules and regs of park equipment. So
The problem with putting up a partial fence, then it's just like you're announcing liability then.
that's kind of where we're at of looking into things on what we can do and not put ourselves at risk, but we also don't want our citizens at risk. And that's come up from every person I've talked to is how long has it been there? Have you had any injuries, any deaths, any?
Traditional
I don't
use.
know, because I don't have all that history, but
Well, I used to live a half a block from there for 18 years. My kids went down there all the time. And, you know, I've gone off that cliff actually down in there, I'd say 5 or 6 times. I mean, but from a practical standpoint, you know, if you just had this is my opinion, not as a professional, but if you had a fence like Buck's saying, that's, you know, 15, 20 feet long, that's just there by the equipment. In reality, I think that would be plenty safe, because I think even if a person went over the side of that cliff, there is some steeper parts in that area there, but even if someone went over the side of that cliff, you know, they could get seriously injured, I guess, if things happen the wrong way. But in all likelihood, you know, especially if you had that section blocked, probably not gonna happen. It's not like the Wyeth Street cliff that I keep talking about that I consider a real danger. That's a 40-foot drop off straight down to asphalt. I think the city does have a real liability there, but I think the solution, you know, a fence along there would, you know.
yeah, like I said, our engineering department, they're slammed, but they are looking into it, and we're trying to do everything legally and not screw anything up and get ourselves in trouble, so.
Thank you.
Could go off the inside.
Other than that, of course, you know, we had some really lovely weather, so we did a lot of de-icing at all our public facilities, like front of restrooms and et cetera, the library, cleaning parking lots, things like that on several occasions. And during our snow, we had I believe he was a citizen, but maybe not. We had a joyrider at McCormick Park that you all, I think, probably heard about. That left ruts all over the place, and there was rumors that he hit a dugout, that he'd hit a park bench, that he didn't hit really anything. What he did was spun his tires like crazy and dug ruts everywhere. He went actually inside the skate park, through there, it went all over the stuff. So anyway, they did a police report done, all that stuff, and there is some damage, but we will be able to repair it. And most of it's gonna be grading and seeding and things like that, so.
Most of that was more just a young kid who thought, hey, snow on the ground, I can run over there and I won't hurt anything.
It looked like.
Yeah.
But, the whole park area was just like, I don't think he could have made one more cookie mark in the parking lot. It was amazing. The good thing is he didn't hit the memorial. He came close, but he didn't hit it. It was close. Let's see, our work crew, the county work crew removed a lot of blackberries from the BMX park area up by the, kind of behind the skate park. That's kind of a rough area for them to get, but they did put a heck of a dent in that. I think Mr. Barlow will be happy with that.
Is there any possibility of putting a gate across any of these roads?
I talked to a police officer, you're talking at McCormick to close it in
Yeah.
inclement weather times and things like that. I kind of discussed that. I don't know the legalities of it. He kind of claimed, because this all happened at dark when the park was closed, of course, and he claimed that the way our city ordinance is written, they can't charge somebody with a trespassing charge. It won't hold up. I didn't understand that real clear, but that's the way it was explained to me. So I don't know what's wrong with it. If it's something that law that's changed with, there's a lot of things changing with homeless people in parks, things like that. I didn't know if it was related to that or what. So it was kind of like, well, if we close the park, then I don't know how all that works legally. So that was a thought that I had also, was you could chain it off and post it at the library side and the other side and hope people stayed out. But so I don't know the answer to that, but that's something we can look into.
So does McCormick Park have certain hours? It's.
Dusk to dawn,
Okay.
unless by permit, which is usually a special use permit.
Pretty much all our parks are dusk to dawn.
Yeah, you can't, if you don't have a gate or something.
Unless you have a special use permit, yeah, it's.
But if you damage the park, I would think that you could be held responsible for damage you done.
This
Regardless.
young man was charged and arrested, and he could have been charged with felony charges, I don't know, but I know that he was arrested, and I feel we did police reports and all that stuff, so.
Is there discussion on putting like a chain link there, at dusk? I mean, so that somebody would go around and put that chain up so people can drive in there?
At the street entrances to the park?
Well, there's two entrances, one over by the BMX, so people can get to the library, but, maybe right there and maybe at the main entrance.
Yeah, you would have to do 3 areas, from the library parking lot and the 2 street entrances, but we haven't discussed any of that. And then you're also bringing in overtime of paying someone from the parks department. Sometimes it's light till 10 o'clock at night. Then you have to bring someone in to close the gate, and the police obviously don't have time to police that.
No, it is.
So, if there's complications to things.
Baseball games and other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Don't the police cruise through there at night? Check it out.
The police do cruise through there. I think they do more now than they did a while back, which is nice. The presence does.
See, if it was locked, then they wouldn't have to cruise through it.
It'd be amazing.
Necessarily.
People walk into that park, even as they drive into that park.
Mhm.
I mean, that's another thing, is then the police couldn't drive through at night when there's such good people from areas that are hanging out.
I didn't want to say that. I think that's a good idea.
Anyway, we did have a bunch of trees blow down to this golf. Clean those up. It was rather windy on the 3rd. There's 4 trees all tangled together, and our parks crew came in and roped the area off so that no one could walk through. And then the next day we cleaned up the trees. It wasn't anything that made a bald spot in the forest or anything, so all was good there. Our crew is still continuing to do pesticide spray training with Chip Bugle. That's going pretty well. We've got 7 employees involved in that, so that's a good thing.
The completion date on that?
What's that?
The completion date for that?
I don't know that there is. I think Chip is kind of monitoring how well people are accepting it. It's difficult. It's a hard study unless you're just really, really bored, but it'll put you to sleep pretty quick, some of it.
So that would mean eventually we could have like you guys could spray holly stumps for us in a park or something.
Yeah, we could, it's a right of way spray training, and we would be licensed to do all that stuff. Good, yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing for us, especially to have that many people do it. For me, it makes me feel good about our crews wanting to better educate themselves and improve. I like seeing that. We haven't had a lot of that, but this is good. We had some vandalism at McCormick restrooms, lots of graffiti inside, stall door completely ripped off of the other stalls, which breaks hinges, tears everything off. I don't know why, but vandalism never really makes sense to me, so we still deal with that quite a bit.
That happened during the day or the nighttime or?
Overnight. It had to be during, it didn't have to be, but it had to be. I almost think it has to be after we left and right before it got dark, because we have automatic locking doors on those.
That's my next question, okay.
And that's one reason why we have changed the timers on the Campbell Park doors, because as soon as school gets out, it seems like all of our vandalism happens within an hour of school getting out. It's just a track record we've been keeping track of, so what we've done is, kind of by the time school gets out, I think travel that far on foot, I'm sorry, the bathroom doors are locked. And it does interrupt a lot of people who use that restroom. I mean, from landscapers to UPS drivers, people that don't have public bathrooms to go to. A lot of people use it, and it is a bummer, but it costs us thousands of dollars. They will rip stainless toilets off the ground and destroy it. They'll kick toilet paper dispensers until they're smashed flat and ruin everything. So that's a big problem for us is the vandalism. That's one way we're trying to help with it. The other thing we've done is at McCormick Park, there's a storage shed. All of our baseball fields have storage sheds in them. Most of them are in terrible condition. The one at McCormick, the Little League is starting to play there. The ramp going into it, big hole in it, drops about a foot. The floor inside was rotten. So what we've done is a temporary fix. We poured a concrete ramp to the door. We poured about 3 foot by 4 foot concrete slab inside, and that's gonna make it safe for this season. Our plan is during the off season, probably late fall, is to tear out the bottom of that building, pour a concrete slab under it, set the building down on the concrete slab, and then do what we did to the Campbell Park restrooms, which was cut about 10 inches of the siding off of the bottom, put a flashing strip and replace that and paint it. So, because it's had dirt against it so long, it's rotting. And the ones at Campbell, that's another thing I will be talking to you about. So we're trying to at least get them safe for now, and then we're gonna try to improve upon the appearance of them. And I also want to bring up that with the softball associations and baseball associations, that they seem to use that for yearly storage. I don't necessarily agree with that. I kind of think that, yeah, you can store your things there while you have the park for your time frame. It shouldn't be. Seems a little personal. It's for softball, baseball. So I think we're kind of taking advantage of there, and our buildings are rough shape. And the other thing that kind of ties in with that is the banners that they hang on our fences. We got them all over the Boise fields and the Campbell fields. Some of them I know have been up for over a year. I don't believe those should remain up as year-long advertisement for that, because they fall off. We zip tie them up because they look bad when they're hanging there falling off. They're not meant to be up forever. The grommets rot and they don't look very well. Yeah, Jerry.
So they have to use that, they have to get a permit from the city, right?
To have exclusive rights for the field?
Right.
Yes.
So can you have part of the agreement is that when that is over, they're responsible for removing their, so next year or whenever when they sign the next
And
one?
what's in my nugget right now is to make that a part of that permitting plan, and then give them this year, put it in their head that this is coming. And then I want to police that the following year, and while I'm trying to improve these buildings, because they're an eyesore. You go by 6th Street, they're an eyesore.
That can be handled internally, and are you?
I believe so. I'm gonna try. If
Be
not,
updating.
have him helping me.
What I mean, if you could come to us, is what I was.
Oh, you guys will know every step of the way.
I mean, we could make a proposal if you want us to.
I use all the help I can get.
Yeah, I think it'd be appropriate to update that agreement so that they have to clear their belongings at the end of their allotted time.
It's an eyesore. I mean, it is. I get they're trying to raise money, and that's a good thing for them. And it kind of looks neat when your parents own a business and they've got their name on the, it's cool. It's baseball stuff, right on. I'm all about it. But when you're done,
You're done.
See you later.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree.
Right back to vandalism again. I don't know if you guys are aware, but this weekend, before I bring this up, I did talk about the Sand Island. We discussed that at the last one on whether that's even part of us anymore or anything. And what I got was we don't do anything over there. But I'll find out more real quick because the bathrooms over there are a self-composting bathrooms that have batteries. They're very, very expensive. There's a room that has the batteries in it. It's connected to the solar panels, the chargers and all that. They were destroyed over the weekend. Somebody went in there. I don't know all the details, whether they stole the batteries and all that stuff, or they just broke things, but Brad called me and told me, or he said, yeah, he did call me about it, told me about it. I got him all the info I could. He's called the company that built them and he is working on getting them repaired. I don't know where that stands with those repairs. I'm in the middle of that right now because the Marine Board's in the middle of that too. They did a lot of the funding on that. So that's something that just came up fresh this morning.
Like, I want to make a comment on that. When we did that field trip last year, a couple of us, I went into at least 2 bathrooms. There was one of them where one wasn't working and another one where I didn't think it was very clean. You know, we didn't say too much about it, but now that you bring it up, you know, it does reflect upon the city. So, you know, I don't know who's responsible for it, you know, St. Helens Marina, Brad, but those bathrooms should be kept clean because people can use the beach, I mean, on a daily basis without having to pay money. They can go use it. So, you know, they show up to a St. Helens, you know, Sand Island State, City Park, and they go to a restroom and they go there and, oh, this restroom stinks. St. Helens doesn't keep their bathroom stink. So, you know,
Yeah,
I think it should be worked out who's responsible for those because, you know, I never really gave it too much thought last year, but
It's been Brad, I can tell you in the past, since the agreement of him leasing that, it's been Brad's responsibility. And I haven't been over there, so I can't honestly tell you the conditions that they've been in. I hope that Brad's been doing a good job.
but one of them was working, the other one was pretty dirty.
But that was quite a while ago, wasn't it?
Year ago.
Last June.
Last summer.
Last, when we went on the field trip there.
That's something that I can ask Brad about, say, how's it going with that, you know, if you have complaints about bathrooms and things like that, but to be quite honest, I don't really have the crew to run over to the island all the time when we're not the ones maintaining and cleaning, just to inspect. And that's a time consuming.
But I mean, if you went over there, you know, say twice a year, you know, and, you know, maybe before the season started, and you go over and you look at the bathrooms and say, hey, you know, this doesn't really, I know it has to be legally in writing, you know, verbal doesn't quite get it anymore. But you go over there before, you know, the camping season really starts and you look at the bathrooms and you say, hey, these bathrooms really aren't up to standard. We need to get these up to standard before the season's over with. Maybe once a year is sufficient.
I would have to assume that Brad's trying his best to do that because it's representing him and his camping sites, you know, I've given him the benefit of the doubt. I understand that. And I get what you're saying. Policing it is time consuming, or equipment to get to that side is not in very good shape. I'm not even sure that I would deem it to be something I would put my crew on right now.
But I'm thinking, you know, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, I'm not gonna make a big stink over this or dwell on it very long. But I would think once a year, it's a city park. I would think at least once a year that the Parks Department, you know, or one of your representatives, you know, should go over and take a look at it and say, hey, you know, yeah, you know, the park looks good, or hey, you know, those bathrooms are dirty, or one of those bathrooms doesn't work, you know. And so when people, you know, go over there to lay on the beach in the summertime or go look at the sand sculptures and things like that, you know, when they go up to a bathroom, they have a clean bathroom, at least at the beginning of the year.
Right.
I'll leave that alone.
And it is, they have a huge issues with vandalism over there with they always have. It's a shame. It's everywhere.
I'm thinking if we have a commissioner that's assigned to that, which we do, maybe they could go over,
Sure.
you know, twice a year and do that check for you.
I'm all about that.
Right.
That's there. You're right over there.
Jacob.
Oh,
Yeah, I would, it could be interesting to look at Brad's lease also to see how that's protected in the lease. So that's something you can get access to.
Work it.
Let's see.
The flying eagle over there. Flying eagle over there to the island.
And as far as that, the only other thing I've got to say is that I do need to meet up with Howard about his bench still. I have not done that.
Yes.
It's been a weather crazy, busy, all kinds of excuses if you want me to keep going, but we're still on the list.
Okay, I was gonna talk to you about that.
Definitely. All I got.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. All right, counselors report.
Right, I think most of the stuff I had to say today, we've already kind of touched on, but just again, I want to thank you guys for all your hard work, dedication. Thank Buck and your crew for all the work that you're doing. You mentioned the work crew, and him and I have talked, and there's potential of having the work crew come in and help clean out the Japanese garden area in McCormick Park, so I think that would be a good solution, rather than having one or two people plug away, to just have them come and kind of start from scratch. So everyone's okay with that. I'll talk to Buck some more about that and arrange time to work on that. I guess the big thing going on in McCormick Park, other than vandalism, is the addition to the Veterans Memorial. And so Jenny left these plans here today so that everyone could take a look at them. So I'll pass those around. But the main addition are there's going to be these pedestals put in with a service flag for each different branch of the military. So that was a part of the plan all along. It was meant to be done in different phases. So this was approved a long time ago, but they've been working on funding. And so it's a collaboration with the city and also the VFW, and Andrew Nemi from the engineering is donating a lot of his time on this. So initially, several different plans were presented, and initially the one, I wasn't a big fan of it, but they were going to place the 7 flag poles right in front of the wall where the current flower beds are. There was also talk about splitting some of them on the left side of the wall and some of them on the right. Those of us that were involved with it though liked the layout there that you can see. So if you're looking straight at the veterans wall, the flags will all be on the right side between that and the gazebo. The VFW said it was really important to them. The bigger seating area on the left, that you could see all of those service flags when you're seated under that covered area. So I think everybody decided this was kind of the best layout. It's not quite symmetrical because there's 7 flags. They'll be leaving the American flag where it is now and working around it. But after going and taking a look at it, I liked it. And I think that's the best design that I've seen. So questions about that? It's moving along. So Jimmy said today, hopefully have it done by our birthday.
Veterans Day, yeah. We're doing most of the concrete work. We're doing pretty much all of the concrete work in-house, grant money. So our hours are paying towards that grant. So it's gonna be nice, I think. It'll be cool.
So just know I'm available. If you ever need me, feel free to reach out. And if you need the council to be aware of something, let me know. I'd be glad to pass it along.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
All right, discussion items. Howard.
I'll do this quick. Nob Hill, April 1st, we're having our semi-annual work party in the actual park itself. I'm gonna be doing some gravel. I was wondering, Buck, if I could get, I used up a little bit of that gravel by the outhouse. Could I get one more scoop?
It's like 2 yards or.
Yeah, about what you brought again. And then that gives me plenty of gravel, and if you don't get it all spread, then I'll.
Before April 1st, right?
Yeah, before the 1st.
And that's like at noon to 2 or 1 to 3 or.
1 to 3. And then also we're starting to think, since we only have 2 people show up to our work party for the 5th Street right away. Emily and Patrick showed up. But we're wondering if we could do another work party on the street right away on September 9th in that area.
Send me an email.
Okay. We just didn't want to be, I know we're getting close to Halloween town, but I don't think anything in that area, I mean, don't do anything around Fifth Street, so I think we should be okay. Gravel. That's all right, I'll got a question for you, but I'll ask you this after the meeting. So that's all for now.
So on the way over here, I was thinking that maybe we should start a work party on Earth Day, which is April 22nd at the Japanese Gardens. So it was kind of a segue to that because we need to start working on that. And for Citizens Day in the park, somebody mentioned that it would be nice to have even taking some people on tours
Yeah.
of that and show them what we've started and what it could look like and that kind of thing. So I don't know if anything else was planned for that day at McCormick. If anybody knows of anything, if not, I mean, we could change it to a different day, but I thought that might be good.
Are we,
The Earth Day, the 22nd.
That's actually Earth Day
Right.
this year is on the weekend, okay?
mhm.
Did you verify that?
Are you gonna do that?
So I'd like to.
Yeah, are we able to see?
April 22nd, you said.
Yes.
You have a time for that?
Have rec desk in front of me.
I decided this as I was coming over today, so let's make it, what, 10 to 12 or
Even if
9 to
there's
12?
other stuff going on there, it's gonna be.
Yeah, 10 to- 10 to
Well, I tell you
14.
what, there's a lot of work, so I think 9 to 12 would be
Is
fine.
it possible though, if, say like the gazebo's open to, or, that maybe we could reserve some of the sitting area there too and have some drinks and the sign up and stuff.
That's what I'm saying, I'll need to check because there's a lot of gazebos.
Cause we can do the work party, even regardless, I think that'd be fine.
Could always just bring a tent and bring our own tables.
Conversation aside, I got part of it.
Oh, just looking, so we were looking, she's going to check to see if the gazebos are rented during that day.
Okay, good.
Just to clarify for us, it still should be fine to do a work party, but if we have the gazebo access, so we can have, sign up area, resting, and if not, Howard said we could bring our own pop-ups and have them closer to the,
We can move
the
tables
area.
wherever you want.
It's not very far.
Yeah.
To get there, I mean.
We're resourceful.
just to coordinate, right? I love that, okay.
So you're invited. So does that work for people from 9 to 12? I mean, 3 hours is plenty.
3 hours is plenty.
There's a lot of work there.
And now, what about some of the, I know there was concerns about poison oak in the area. Has that been attended to at all?
Emily was spraying there, wasn't she?
Yeah, they haven't this year. I know they had previously, but I don't know that it's the right time to spray it right now.
Usually the fall's the
They
best.
did come in and spray. Like a jerk, I don't remember what it is, but they sprayed some stuff.
Probably sometime in January.
Yeah,
I think it was January.
so I don't know
Okay.
whether.
But you'll never get rid of it totally.
Right,
You know,
right.
It's just a matter of making people aware, I think, of what to look for when you're
Yeah.
down there, because I think you got some
Oh, they steered-
when we were in there.
Yeah, the botanical gardens, there's up on the upper part, there's lots of it, and Emily says, leave it there because it's habitat for wildlife. They hide in it and they eat the berries. But the stuff along the trail
Yes.
needs to be, I'd like to spray that. And I'd be glad to spray it. I did it a couple of years ago.
Just wear long sleeves, bring gloves, or gloves, and long jeans or something.
Because as we say in Nob,
Exposed, yeah.
as we say in Nob Hill, one time we had poison oak growing up a tree. We hurled the tree on a very, very cold day, and then the 2 squirrel nests that were in the tree went away. And now on the other side of the trail, there's poison oak 30, 40 feet up the tree, and now there's one of the squirrel nests up there.
Aw.
So we'll very much think differently about doing it.
All right, so April 22nd.
Yeah.
Park, Japanese Garden Work Party.
And that would be 9 to 12.
Okay.
Okay, 2 other things. this is for Buck. A person contacted me, Buck, take it for what it's worth, that they and other people would take their dogs to Heidi Human Dog Park. But it's so muddy down there that they stopped taking their dogs there and they took them to Columbia City Dog Park. And they would like bark dust to be put in the park. Okay.
McCormick Park has a
Pardon?
dog park.
Pardon?
McCormick Park has a.
It's almost all.
Yeah, but it's not all, but it's not really, you can't, it's not fenced. See, I would like to see, I've said this many, many times, as you guys know, I'd like to see the Great Cliffs Park, the dog park up above, at least half of that, fenced off as, so people can actually take their dogs there and let them
Something we
loose.
can check into.
But that's another story. Okay, the other thing is I want to say is that the Urban Trail Subcommittee, we're meeting with Mohammed and Buck
Yes.
next Monday, and that would be Dana and Howard and Lynn and myself. And we're talking about things we'd like to implement this year. And talk about that at the next meeting,
And that's at 9 AM, right?
9 AM.
And that'll be down here, but upstairs.
Well, they said upstairs first, but Melissa, you said it's gonna be here, didn't you?
I reserved this room.
This room, okay. Okay, so this room, not upstairs.
Here.
This room here.
So she got this.
Now, question, is it okay if I have my 7-year-old with me?
I'm good with that.
Is that okay?
But
We're in flying every time you
She's
saw her.
a good kid.
I'm gonna say no, be the bad guy.
We homeschool though, so she'll be with me, okay.
We were at her house, we put her in the basement with my wife.
She loved it too, she wants to go back. Okay, any other discussion items? No, all right. And, all right, so that's really about it. We don't have any further action items. So with no further discussion, I'd like to adjourn.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good job.
That was a long meeting now.
I love how our.
The one before that.
It was a long meeting before that.
Yeah, well, the park is not much to
Yeah.
report on.
And I used to do the stuff I used to do. I mean, I used to go down to the time. I used to do a lot of stuff. I just don't do that much stuff
We
anymore.
should go down there.